server for Blackout had been located on a cargo ship moving through the North Atlantic under a false flag. They faced a problem. The operation required a SEAL team capable of boarding the vessel in hostile conditions and neutralizing a heavily armed security force. But the mission also required someone who understood the conspiracy, someone the enemy would never expect to see again. That was why, 3 years after her funeral, Commander Elena Carter walked back onto the deck of the Farragut. As the team gathered in the briefing room, tension hung thick in the air. Hale stared at her across the table, still trying to process the impossible reality that she was alive. Carter didn't acknowledge the shock in their faces. Instead, she projected a satellite image of a massive container ship onto the screen. "Target vessel, Northern Star," she said. "Officially, a commercial freight carrier. In reality, it's hosting the final Blackout server cluster. If that system goes online, coordinated cyber attacks will hit U.S. infrastructure within 6 hours. One of the younger SEALs raised a hand cautiously. "Ma'am, with respect, how do you know all this?" Carter's eyes hardened slightly. "Because I've spent the last 3 years making sure we get exactly one shot to stop it." The room fell silent again. Hale finally spoke. "We watched you die." Carter met his gaze steadily. "No, you watched me disappear." The mission began at 0200 hours under freezing rain. The SEALs launched from 2 stealth boats, cutting through black waves toward the looming silhouette of the cargo ship. Hale moved beside Carter as they prepared to climb the ladder. 3 years, he muttered quietly. "You could have told us." Carter clipped her rifle sling into place. "If you'd known I was alive, someone else would have known too." They boarded the vessel silently, neutralizing the first guards within seconds. But as the team advanced through the cargo decks, Carter sensed something wrong. The layout didn't match the intel she'd spent years gathering. Too many empty corridors, too few guards, a trap. The realization hit her just as the lights flickered and alarms blared across the ship. Heavy blast doors slammed shut behind them. Hale swore under his breath. "We've been set up." Carter's mind raced. If this was a trap, then someone inside the intelligence chain had leaked their plan, which meant the conspiracy had reached even deeper than she feared. Gunfire erupted from the far corridor as mercenaries flooded the deck. The SEALs returned fire, moving with precise coordination. Amid the chaos, Carter pushed toward the server room located deep in the ship's central hold. Explosions rocked the hull as grenades detonated. Hale fought beside her, adrenaline pounding. "You said this was the last piece," he shouted. Carter kicked open a reinforced door leading to the server chamber. Inside, rows of humming processors blinked with cold blue light. But at the center of the room stood a single man watching them calmly. Viktor Sokolov, alive. Hale froze in disbelief. "You said he died in Syria." Carter's jaw tightened. "So did I." Sokolov smiled faintly. "Commander Carter, I wondered when you'd find me." He gestured toward the servers. "You're too late. Blackout is already uploading." Carter raised her rifle. "Shut it down." Sokolov shook his head. "You still don't understand. This was never about destroying America. It's about exposing the people who tried to control it." Carter hesitated. Something in his voice carried an unsettling sincerity. Then Sokolov dropped the final revelation. "The people funding Blackout, the ones who wanted chaos so they could rebuild power structures afterward, they're the same people who declared you dead." Hale glanced at Carter. "Is he lying?" Carter didn't answer immediately, because deep down, she already knew the truth. The conspiracy wasn't just external enemies. It included powerful figures inside their own government. And the moment she pulled the trigger, everything would change. Commander Elena Ghost. Carter had been dead for 3 years, at least according to every official record inside the United States Navy. Her name was engraved on a memorial wall at Naval Special Warfare Command in Coronado, California. Her folded flag presented to her father, and her teammates had raised glasses in quiet silence the night the Navy declared her Kia after a classified mission went catastrophically wrong along the Syrian border in 2026. But on a cold November night in the North Atlantic, aboard the destroyer USS Farragut, the surviving members of SEAL Team 7 stood frozen in stunned disbelief as a helicopter door opened and the woman they had mourned stepped out onto the deck wearing a black tactical jacket, her eyes calm, unreadable. and unmistakably alive. For Lieutenant Marcus Hale, who had been her second-in-command and closest friend before the mission that killed her, the moment felt like reality had fractured. He remembered the explosion, the burning compound, the satellite feed cutting out, the command center going silent, and the official statement days later that Elena Carter had sacrificed herself to allow the rest of the team to escape. He remembered attending her funeral. He remembered believing she was gone forever. Yet now she stood there again, taller somehow, harder, her once long dark hair cut short and threaded with silver at the temples, carrying the quiet authority of someone who had walked through darkness and returned changed. No one spoke at first. The wind whipped across the deck, carrying the distant rumble of the sea, and the entire team simply stared. Then Carter broke the silence with the same calm voice they all remembered from years before. Mission briefing in 5 minutes. Gear up. It was as if the past 3 years had never happened, except everyone knew they had. The story of how Elena Carter had died was classified at the highest level. The story of how she had come back was even more secret and far more dangerous. 3 years earlier, SEAL Team 7 had been deployed on a covert operation codenamed Silent Tide, a mission so sensitive that even most of the Pentagon didn't know it existed. Intelligence suggested that a rogue network of international arms brokers had obtained a prototype cyberweapon capable of shutting down entire power grids across the United States. The weapon's developer was a former American engineer turned traitor named Viktor Sokolov, a man who had disappeared into the chaos of war zones and black markets. Carter's team had tracked him to an abandoned refinery complex near the Syrian border. The plan had been simple: infiltrate under cover of darkness, capture Sokolov alive, extract before sunrise. But nothing about that mission had gone according to plan. The compound had been heavily fortified, far more than intelligence predicted. And within minutes of the team breaching the perimeter, they were ambushed by mercenaries equipped with military-grade drones and heavy weapons. Carter had ordered the team to fall back while she covered the rear. The last thing Hale remembered seeing before the explosion was Carter standing in a hallway filled with smoke, firing controlled bursts while shouting for them to get to the extraction point. Then the building collapsed in a blast that shook the entire valley. Satellite imagery later confirmed the structure had been destroyed. No body was recovered. The Navy declared her KIA. What no one knew, not Hale, not the team, not even most of the Pentagon, was that Carter had survived the explosion, though barely. She had been pulled from the rubble by a covert CIA task force operating nearby, a group that had been tracking Sokolov for years. Their orders had been simple. If Carter survived, she was to disappear. Because Silent Tide had revealed something terrifying. The cyberweapon wasn't just real. It was part of a much larger conspiracy involving multiple governments, private military contractors, and powerful figures who would kill to keep the truth buried. Carter had been the only person who saw the full data drive Sokolov carried before the explosion. She knew the names on it. That knowledge made her too valuable to lose, and too dangerous to let anyone know she was alive. For 3 years she operated in the shadows, working with a small, off-the-books intelligence cell that officially did not exist. During that time, she tracked financial networks, infiltrated arms markets, and hunted down pieces of the conspiracy one by one. She learned that the cyberweapon, called Blackout, had already been sold to a coalition of extremist groups who planned to launch a coordinated attack on American infrastructure, power grids, air traffic control, emergency communications. If activated simultaneously, millions could die in the chaos that followed. Carter spent years chasing the fragments of that plan across continents: Istanbul, Prague, Nairobi, Singapore. Each lead revealed another layer of betrayal. Each layer pointed closer to a shocking truth: that someone inside the U.S. defense establishment had helped fund the program in the first place. When the CIA finally confirmed that the final activation server for Blackout had been located on a